Okay, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, January 12th, 2023, and we have a quorum, barely, but it is a quorum. And so I will call this library board meeting to order. First item is we all have agendas in front of us, and so the first item is the approval of the agenda as shown. Before we go and take that, April, you got any other changes to this?
No.
Okay, so hearing no changes, and I will move that we approve the agenda as shown. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any other changes? No, okay, hearing none, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Now, we got the introduction of the library board meetings, which should go pretty quick. There's only a few of us here. But why don't we'll start with Carl. Why don't you start with you and we'll go around.
I'm Carl Zeidler, and this is my second full term on the library board.
I'm Anon Fraser, and this is my very first library board.
Welcome. I'm Vince Bourgo. I can't remember what term. I've been on the library board forever, it seems. And I'm the vice chair currently.
I am Dustin Sauter. I'm former and potentially future secretary treasurer, and this is my first term on the board.
Sarah Berger, it's my first term on the board.
I'm April Eide, I'm the library director.
Megan.
Megan Kitterman, I'm the assistant library director.
And she's our note taker or minutes taker, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. And we'll catch I don't know if you want to add this back on next month then to catch for the people that are missing.
Sure, I can just note that our chair, Ruth Ann Webster, is not here, as well as members Hope Fries, Yvonne Weber, and Ting Ting Schwartz.
All right, third item on the agenda is the election of officers, president, vice president, and secretary/treasurer. Ruth Ann has indicated that she would continue on as president. I will continue on as vice president, and Dustin has indicated he would happily carry on as secretary/treasurer, unless there's anybody else in the room who would like to vie for any of those positions.
I move those three candidates for those positions.
All right, we have a motion to elect the officers as stated previously. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, now, is this one we got to take the roll on, or we can just do a group? What do you think, April?
I think we've just done the group in the past, but if
Yeah,
you feel...
yeah, let's do that. Okay, so all in favor of keeping Ruth Ann as president, Vince Bourgo as vice president, and Dustin as secretary/treasurer? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, elections carried. Now, the Brown County Library Board representative. So Carl is current representative. His term will expire at the end of 2024. The library does not have a designated alternate for this position. So what's the purpose of this, April, then?
So the Brown County Library Board meets twice a year in June and November, and they are in charge of the request to the county on behalf of the 5 Brown County libraries for county funding, as well as dispersing those funds to the county libraries. I did speak with the county administrator this past month, and he is recommending that we do designate an alternate.
Okay. So is there anyone on the board that's here would like to be designated as an alternate? And now as the alternate, then should they be attending the meetings then along with the primary?
No, they don't need to, but they would attend if Carl was not able to.
Okay.
They would be welcome if they would like to.
The open meeting.
Yes.
Right. Yep. So if there's no one that wants to be designated as the alternate at this time, we can bring it up again next month when hopefully we have more of the board members here, and we'll see if anyone wants to do that. There's also the fifth item on the agenda, the Traverse the Sioux Library Board representative. Carl is also the current representative for that. And again, his term doesn't expire on that till the end of 2024. And we currently do not have an alternate for that position, which, how is that different than the Brown County Library Board representative?
So Traverse de Sioux is our regional library system. So they receive state funding and then they use their state funding to support the libraries that are members. And we also pay membership fees to them. So we pay membership fees to them for things like our courier service, where we share materials between the member libraries, interlibrary loan services, as well as their management of our integrated library system, the system we use to check items in and out and manage all of our items and accounts. So the Traverse de Sioux board is in charge of making those larger financial and staffing decisions for that regional library as an organization.
And they act as the pass-through fiscal agent for libraries that seek the ACHA funding for programs.
Yes.
So
Okay.
How
And so,
often do they meet?
They meet once a month.
and where are those meetings at?
Currently, they've been held virtually. Before the pandemic, they were held at different libraries throughout the region, so those board members had a chance to visit other libraries.
Now, does every library that's part of the system have a board representative, or there's not that many board representatives?
No, there's a good number. There are representatives from all of the Traverse de Sioux libraries. Some of those are, system representatives, like Martin County has more than one branch, but they just have the one representative from their region. And then there are also representatives from there's a public library staff member, so one of the Traverse de Sioux library directors is a member, and then members from academic and school libraries, because TDS also does some services for those kind of types of libraries.
in addition, the TDS is the regional library system, and it covers 13 counties. And each county is represented on the board.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl. That's a better explanation.
And some of the counties have county commissioners sit in on the meetings. Ours, Brown County, does not.
So is the intent then to have an alternate for this position too then?
I have not had a push from TDS for us
Okay.
to designate one, but it would be a good idea to have one just in case.
So if anyone's interested in that position as well, you can let April know, and we can get that filled. And again, bring it up at next month's meeting and see if anyone else on the board would be interested in that. All right. So then now we've got the approval of the meeting minutes from last month, which are shown in the agenda and accessible through the link. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read them ahead of time, because the board information is sent out prior to the meeting. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 8th, 2022 library board meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a meeting and a second. Is there any discussion, corrections? Anybody know of? All right, hearing none, then all in favor of approving the minutes from the December 8th, 2022 library board meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Now we'll get into the financial report for, I guess it's the December financial report, but it's not necessarily the year-end one, right? Okay.
So as of December 31st, we were 100% through 2022, and at that point, our budget was approximately 88.82% expended. Some of the bills that we paid during December included $1,007 to Demco for processing supplies for books and other materials, $1,560 to Jake's Plumbing to replace 2 sinks in bathrooms in the library's meeting room area, $302 to Runnings to repair the library's snow blower, and $20,466 to Hiller Commercial Floors for the children's carpet room replacement, which is now complete. We also paid bills to Library Furniture International. The first one was $8,500 for the first half of the meeting room furniture expense. That's, they require a deposit of half of the full amount. And then $3,437 for the second half of the children's room shelving replacement. So that project is complete as well. Our library budget is approximately 11.18% or $107,000 underspent. I do expect several more invoices for 2022. And then the finance department is continuing to adjust for items that are prepaid, like our subscriptions and some of our memberships. They're expected to complete their final audit for 2022 in April of 2023. And at that point, I'll report those final numbers to the library board, and we'll have a concrete number of what might transfer to our fund balance.
Okay.
I am expecting that we'll have funds going to fund balance.
Hopefully all the bills will be paid for by then.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, I'm expecting them to be. Some of the things that we would have outstanding at this point are just a few materials bills from our book and DVD vendors. So the other half of the meeting room furniture. We did replace the network switch in the building, and then we also did some technology replacements. We replaced the children's laptop and the dock that it sits on.
So the second half of the meeting room furniture expense, even though that won't happen till this year, 2023, that's part of the 2022 budget?
Yes.
Okay. And then what was the meeting room furniture? What did we end up getting?
We purchased 8 tables and 50 chairs.
And the meeting room, that's the one in the basement?
Yes.
Okay.
And then just a note, the city council approved the final 2023 budget at their last meeting of 2022. And that was approved with no changes to the library's budget as approved by the library board back in July this year.
Okay. And then the sinks and the basement bathrooms, how come they had to be replaced?
They were leaking and unstable, so we replaced the whole basin and the faucet and added automatic faucets instead of
Oh,
the
okay.
ones.
Good. All right, any questions on the December financial report?
Just have one question, April. How did that final payment to Hillard of $20,400, I believe you said,
Mhm.
compare with their original bid?
It was exact.
Yeah, and when we had one of our book groups up there, my wife and I stopped up in the children's library, and the carpet looks really good up there. I like the carpet style they have, and they had just finished that day. I think they just finished putting the shelving units in, and the children's librarian was happy about, how quickly they did it and then how sturdy the shelves are.
Yeah, I did want to note for the board, after Hiller had completed the carpet replacement, I think it was close to 2 weeks later, we noticed that shelving along the walls in the children's area, so that would be the junior nonfiction, were starting to bow away from the wall from the weight of the books. And so we discovered when they had done the carpet replacement, when they lifted up the shelves, the brackets were bent, and so they weren't holding the books like they should be. So library staff took down the books, and then our maintenance technician was able to stabilize those shelves again. And we put the books back up. So we're satisfied that it's all safe now. And I did contact the vendor and let them know, and they sent out a technician to look at it as well. But by that point, we had already solved the issue.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right, anything else for the financial report? And let's move on to the librarian's report. April?
So on Monday, December 5th, the Youth Services Librarian hosted our annual St. Nicholas Eve story time. 42 parents and children joined us for that, and Doe Myers General Store donated treat bags for the children who attended the event.
I like how the comment is there, who were brave enough to attend the event. What does that mean? Is St. Nicholas scary looking or what?
Yes, and then Krampus visits as well, and so I think some children are a little bit nervous about that as well. We just, as you mentioned, we replaced the shelving units in the middle of the children's room. We're very satisfied with the work that Library Furniture International did, and we're excited to work with them on the other two projects that we have slated. The assistant director, reference librarian, and the reference aide attended an online meeting for Evergreen, which will be our new integrated library system. They are part of the testing cohort. So they are testing features to make sure that they're working properly with our items and our loan rules and those kind of things, and pointing out little things that we need to change in the system settings before we go live with that on March 2nd. And then we'll talk about it a little bit later with one of our resolutions, but Megan, our assistant director, is working to develop a core collection of adult Spanish fiction titles. We've had some requests recently for Spanish language titles for adults and children, and so we want to make those available. Just a note in our statistics, we have already started to receive phone calls about the United Way tax preparation. That will start in February and go through April. So we offer the space in our meeting room a couple times a week for United Way volunteers to come do tax preparation for those who qualify for that. So we have people asking for that appointment line number. Library staff really have minimal maintenance required for that program. We give out that appointment line, make some forms available to pick up, and then just help the tax preparers with any meeting room needs that they have while they're at the library. But otherwise, they're pretty self-sufficient. And then just a note that Overdrive circulation continues to increase month by month and year over year. We've added a lot more titles. Our spending has been more consistent with what we're investing in Overdrive, and our circulation numbers continue to show that our patrons are glad to have that resource. Just today, we made a change to one of the settings where we're going from allowing 5 holds at a time in Overdrive to 15 at a time per patron, which that'll make it much easier for patrons to have multiple requests that, so they have books constantly coming in as they hit their turn in the hold queue. So we're glad to offer that. And then another stat that is increasing significantly, especially after the pandemic, is our wireless stats. So I'm, looking for some reasoning behind that. It might be just that we have more patrons who moved to having their own devices when they found a need for it when we were all at home for an extended period of time.
All right. I did notice that there was in the Library of Things was refreshed, and now there's several STEM-related activities. So when it says refreshed, does that mean some things were replaced? Some were taken out to make room for this, or was this in addition to, or a little of both?
We do some weeding of items for condition from time to time, but we really haven't removed very many items.
Okay, so it's not like we have a limit of how many things we want to put in that category.
We might reach some space concerns at a certain point, but I think for now we're doing okay.
Okay. And in general, how is that working in terms of the people checking out things and then checking them back in, and the condition of which they're being checked in and such?
We've had missing pieces for things, and so we do spend a little bit of our budget for that on replacement pieces for board games and things like that. But for the most part, people are good about returning things on time and in good condition. And we have a lot of families that they'll check out one thing, use it, come back, and then they go right back and pick out another thing. So they're excited to have it. So
when the patrons return the stuff, then do you check to make sure all the pieces are there before you put it back out onto the, before it's available?
We do.
Okay.
Do you ever have shortages during different times of items to be able to check out, or is it usually ample as you go along?
It's usually ample. We have patrons who have checked something out and then it becomes their favorite thing, and then it's not there the next time they come back, so they're a little disappointed to have to pick something else. We had a run on the snowshoes recently, but I think for the most part it's been a good balance. Megan, if you have any thoughts on that.
Now, so when somebody checks them out and they're not available, is there like on the board that they have out front, does that still show that that selection is there, but it's just not available? Or is that like the card taken off of there so that they don't even know it's there?
The card's off of there.
Okay.
Yeah. They would still be able to see it if they search for that collection in our online catalog.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the librarian's report?
I do. The hotspots, how many do we have and how popular are they yet? And then the other thing that perhaps you could address, April, is the transition to the new ILS system. Said we're going live in March. That's pretty quick. How is that coming with training? Are you seeing any issues developing with going into the new system for us, or are we going to be pretty well prepared?
I'll address that question first. We had our first all-staff training on the new system on Tuesday, where the library was closed until 4 to allow us to attend that. That was a live session presented virtually, so we were receiving the training in real time. It was a good overview of the circulation functions. I think what staff are looking for at this point is a chance to really get in there and practice those functions. We're not, on day one, we're not going to know everything we know about our current system. There will be features that we discover as we go along, but the things we're really focusing on getting confident with are the things that our patrons are going to ask of us on day one. So checking materials in and out, placing requests, holds, those kind of things that searching for items for them. Those are the things we're focusing on now. I know they are looking forward to more time to work on that, and we're working on some exercises that they can do to get comfortable with those functions. So I don't think it's going to be a seamless transition, but I am not expecting it to be, something that cripples us either. I think it'll be rough like anything new, but I think it will be okay. And then as far as the Wi-Fi hotspots go, we ordered 5 new ones. We haven't received those yet. And right now I'm dealing with an issue where we've had one that has long been out. I don't think it's coming back. So it's been deactivated, but I'm just working on getting a replacement for that one. But the 2 that are circulating right now are constantly out. So I'm excited to be able to add those new ones and then get another one back in rotation of the 3 that we're supposed to.
So then the one that's not coming back, are we gonna have them pay for it, or?
We'll bill for it. There's never a guarantee that we'll
Right.
get that money, but we already have billed for it, actually.
Okay. All right, well, who knows, maybe they'll find it.
Right. That happens.
So back to the ILS issue. So currently, if you reserve a book, you can check it out yourself. You go out to the shelves and you can check it out and not even have to go to the desk. When we switch over to the new system, is that going to be temporarily taken offline so everything will go through the desk?
There is a self-checkout function. As of right now, my plan is to have that live on day one.
Okay.
But if it's too much for staff to manage teaching patrons that and checking out at the desk, we might have to just pull back from that.
Is there something like a simple step-by-step thing that you could post right there at the self-checkout that says, okay, here's what you need to do?
Yes, Evergreen online support has, lots of screenshotted instructions we can use for staff, and we can certainly clean that up so that it's worded in a way that makes sense to patrons too, with less of
Okay.
library jargon in it.
All right, anything else? All right. And we'll move on to the programming calendar.
So just to note, the library is closed next Monday, the 16th, for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And then we are opening at 11 a.m. on the 24th of January, so staff can attend additional training for the ILS. This training is just an hour and focuses on Aspen, which will be the catalog that our patrons use online if they are placing their own requests and searching for their own items. So it'll be an overview of that for library staff. Then as far as programs go, we have added a chess club at the library. The chess club meets weekly on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and goes until close to library close. That's upstairs in the nonfiction area, so anyone is welcome to join. You don't have to be proficient in chess. You can just be there to learn as well. And then Wacky Wonders meets on Thursday, January 19th at 3:30 in the library's meeting room. That is a registered program for kids, so you would need to call the library or visit our website and choose library events to register for it.
All right. Any questions for the programming? All right, then you want to give us an update on the Strategic Planning Committee.
Sure. So just to note, when we had been talking about strategic planning, we were looking at what the city's timeline for that would be. At the final city council meeting in December, the city manager shared that they had pulled the strategic plan out of the 2023 budget for the city. So they're not planning to do any strategic plan work this year. They're looking to start early next year. So we've talked about before that the city manager said that the library should just go ahead with its own strategic planning process now, but I just wanted to note that for the board. But our committee, the Library Strategic Planning Committee, met on Monday, January 9th, and Ruth Ann Webster and Hope Fries are joining that committee from the library board. So they reviewed kind of the timeline of how our last plan was structured when we wrote that in 2017 and early 2018 and set a tentative timeline for this year for writing our plan. So we're looking at doing a data collection and a possible survey in January through March of this year. Looking at writing the plan in March through July, and then final review and presentation to the board, and then any revisions in July through September. And that's roughly the same length of months we looked at when we did our last. The committee asked library staff to focus on two things until our next meeting. The first was to talk with the city planner because the city is doing their comprehensive plan right now and have done a couple community surveys. And so they wanted me to get some feedback from him about how that process has gone, what their timeline looks like, so we're not competing with their data collection, and then what challenges they've had and how they've decided to go print versus digital surveys for those. So I have a meeting with him tomorrow, and I'll report back to the committee when they meet again. And then the other thing that the committee asked library staff to do is write a rough draft of survey questions. So we looked a little bit at the survey we used in 2017, found some things that could probably be left out when we go again, and then some additional questions we might want to change or add. And so I'll write a rough draft of those along with the other library staff who are on the committee, including Megan. And we'll bring that to the next committee meeting, which is Monday, February 6th at 1:30.
All right. Thanks for that update. Now we'll get into the action items. So the first one is resolution number 2023-01, first reading and adoption for accepting October 1st through December 31st, 2022 donations and memorials. The attached list describes the donations received by the library during that time frame, which includes general donations and memorials. And if you click on that link, you'll see the list of the items given. Most of it is in the form of either cash or books. There's also some on DVDs and some stickers. Total value of the donations is $2,875 or $2,875. So I will accept a motion for accepting the donations and memorials from fourth quarter of last year.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then Dustin, if you want to take the roll.
Sarah?
Yes.
Dustin? Yes. Vince?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier, can you pronounce your first name?
Manon,
Manon. Manon.
yes.
Carl.
Yes.
All right, so it all passes then. Let's see here. And we got second resolution, 2023-02, first reading and adoption, accepting Minnesota Department of Education travel grant. In December 2023, the New Ulm Public Library was selected to receive a travel grant of $1,500 from the Minnesota Department of Education to cover expenses for the library director to attend the Research Institute for Public Libraries, held on July 23rd through the 26th, 2023 in Madison, Wisconsin. The Research Institute for Public Libraries brings together public library leaders and others interested in public library data and evaluation. In this immersive boot camp style event, participants learn practical, strategic methods of gathering, analyzing, and using data for planning, management, and communicating impact. The city manager is in support of the library director attending this event if the library director total travel expenses are not covered by the grant. She will request funding from the Friends of the Library or an honorarium from the Traverse des Sioux library system. If those sources fail, any remaining expenses would come from the travel, conferences, and schools line of the library's budget. So I will make a motion on accepting the Minnesota Department grant, education travel grant of $1,500. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Questions? All right, seems pretty straightforward, so we'll do the roll then. Dustin?
Sarah,
Yes.
Destin, yes. Vince,
Yes.
Manon,
Yes.
Carl.
Yes.
All right. Well, that resolution passes. And the third resolution, number 2023-03, first reading and adoption, is approving $2,600 expenditure from the Hildegard Kitty Lieb Memorial Fund. A bequest of $50,000 from the estate of Hildegard Lieb was made to the New Ulm Public Library in 1999. The sole stipulation of these was that they be used to purchase books in the name of Mrs. Lieb. At its August 2nd, 2001 meeting, we're going way back here, the New Ulm Public Library Board began discussing use of the Lieb Memorial Funds, that is, whether to use only interest or a combination of interest and principal in future years. At its October 4th, 2001 meeting, the Library Board made a decision voting 6-2 to approve the motion that the Lieb Fund be made an endowment with only the interest earned on the principal to be used for purchasing books. As of December 31st, 2022, the balance of the Lieb Fund is $62,997.52. The library has requested money from the Lieb Fund in 2021. The library now requests $2,600 out of the Hildegard Lieb Memorial Fund accrued interest for use in acquiring new library materials. The funds would be used for the following: $2,000 for purchase of fiction books in Spanish for adults, $300 for purchase of nonfiction books in Spanish for adults, and $300 for purchase of Vox books. Vox books are print picture books that have an accompanying audio component. So I will entertain a motion for accepting or approving the use of $2,600 from the Hildegard Kitty Lieb Memorial Fund to purchase the books or the items as noted.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions?
One question. Oh,
Go ahead.
one question. Do you know how much, like, if there's a value that you can put on an inventory for Spanish material currently?
I don't know what our current inventory is, but I can
Okay.
certainly bring that next month.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, because you had mentioned that earlier on in the discussion too about the, I don't know if it was feedback or something, saying we wanted more Spanish materials.
It's fairly minimal. I know Catherine, our children's librarian, did place an order just using regular budget money at late last year for some Spanish materials for young adults and children, but that was also in response to these requests we've received recently.
Okay. Carl, you got a question?
Yeah, how was the allotment of the 2,600 decided upon, the 2,300 and 300? And how many items do you anticipate we can purchase with 2,000 and the 300? What are we thinking of here, roughly?
So, I mean, I guess I can't say for sure. Megan would know a little bit more if these are coming up as more expensive than English titles. I would say that for nonfiction, the $300 would purchase roughly 15 to 20 titles, perhaps, depending on if they're hardcover or not. The Vox books for $300, those are more expensive because of the audio component. Catherine is looking to purchase about a dozen of those. But she is also using some remaining funds she has from donations we received last year. Can you remind me how much you thought $2,000 might purchase a number of titles, a rough estimate?
And approximately 250 adult titles.
Wow.
But part of that money is for new things coming throughout. On a core collection, fresh. That amount just.
Yep.
Right now, we have 0 Spanish titles
Oh,
in adult.
okay.
So, and I have had requests from K-12 educators as well as in the public. So not having anything. And one of the educators, she has children and students she wants to send to the library, but is concerned because there's not a spot for them to go browse.
Now, would you then be setting up a Spanish book section so they wouldn't have to hunt through all the shelves to find a Spanish book, or?
Yes,
Okay.
somewhere perhaps prominent in the beginning.
Right.
We might be welcoming back people that have stopped in before and not found anything, so we want it to be prominent and
Okay.
welcoming.
Are you
spot.
are you using sources outside of existing library staff to help you make selections and understand the content of what it is that will be purchased?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yes, where I currently purchase most of the adult fiction from Ingram, they have curated lists, and one of those is for Spanish core collection.
Okay.
And I'll be looking at other things too. I know I used to work in Tucson, so it was always, you had to be very careful about translation, or is it really in Spanish? So many things to consider. And input the community, just
Sure.
like we do our English fiction, and often things people as this gets going, rather perhaps the educators.
Very good.
We found out about typing, the Spanish characters easier, and will it work ever?
Oh, yeah.
And as it turns out, our new website, we will be able to switch it all to Spanish,
Oh,
the entire site.
Excellent.
So, and Cato is thinking of those things as well.
yeah, I think this is a good thing. We're kind of wading into this as we go forward, from a starting point of 0, like you said. So, and then I think we could look for feedback from patrons and educators and stuff as to, okay, are we moving in the right direction? You know, it's not like we're purposely trying to do it, you know, this way. And we'd appreciate their feedback for what would they like to see included in the collection. And the core books you were talking about, are those like classics, like classic books that were, you know, translations, or are they classic, you know, Spanish author books, or both, or,
A lot of them are Spanish authors
okay,
that I'm sure we all would recognize.
okay.
There's just a lot to go through.
Yeah, no, and we'll learn as we go along, but I think this is a step in the right direction for this. And then, who knows, once we see this, there may be requests for other languages coming along and stuff too,
Yes.
so.
Are there online options through the system, like just the online books that you can look at in different languages? Or is it, it's just curious? Through, yeah, through Libby.
So,
I think so, but I don't know that it's been pursued in
Okay,
a, like a concentrated way through the region.
sure, yeah, okay.
And then the fiction and nonfiction books, is that gonna be a combination of hardcovers, paperbacks?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what's available through our vendors, you know, if there's a paperback and a hardcover, we weigh like how many times do we think this will go out? Do we need to get this hardcover because of that, or can we get by with a paperback? So we
Yeah,
weigh those things.
I mean,
as
there's
we go.
probably a cost differential there too, sometimes, maybe not so much,
And then some
no.
things are just only available in one
Right.
format, and that's what you get.
yeah. All right, any other discussion, questions? All right, hearing none, then we'll take the roll.
Sarah,
yes.
Dustin, yes. Vince? Manon?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
All right, so that resolution passes. And that's it for the resolutions, but I do have a question on the Lee Memorial Fund. So we got a lot of money in there. And, you know, it seems like we're pulling out just a little bit at a time when it could be needs where larger amounts could be pulled out. I mean, if we're only using the interest, by my calculations here, we got, you know, $13,000 over the original investment. You'd be pulling out 2,600, so call it 10,000 what we have left. I mean, that's still a pretty big chunk. Do you have plans for continuing to do this on a more regular basis to start tapping into that stash of money?
Well, you know, if we find that something like this starts circulating heavily this year, we could maybe come back to the board later this year for additional money for books, since we didn't necessarily budget for this, although we could be using some of our book budget money towards this. But at this point, I don't have in mind any major purchasing projects where we would ask for the whole $13,000.
No, I wasn't thinking doing all at one fell swoop, but I'm just saying that maybe do a more regular thing, because I'm not, it says that we pulled from the LEAD fund in 2021, but, you know, how frequently have we been pulling from that in years past? You know, once a year maybe, if that's the frequency that we all agree that's a good frequency, that's fine.
I think when I started in 2017, it was roughly once a year, once every 2 years.
Okay,
And it was around $5,000 that was being pulled each time.
okay.
But we haven't in a couple of years now.
And then it does indicate that to be used, purchased books in the name of Mrs. Lieb. So is there like a little sticker that's gonna go in the books that says, you know, this was purchased through this memorial fund?
Yep, we put a memorial plate in the front of the book.
Okay. All right.
This did come up at a library. I can't remember if that was during the time in between your terms, Vince, or not, but Ruth Ann had brought to the Lieb money to our
Right.
attention.
Yeah, I remember that, yep. So, and then, what was the other question I had? Slipped my mind now. Oh, can we use it? Does it have to be like printed books, or can you use it for like Overdrive or any of that other stuff too?
Ms. Lieb was not very detailed in her will as to how.
Well, I
it
know,
should
but
be
I
used,
mean,
just-
this was also 1999 when a lot of this stuff was.
Right, so I think that would be up to the board.
Okay,
Yeah, if you wanted us to use it for audiobooks, you could determine that that was as intended, because it's still books, just a different format.
right, okay. All right, any other business?
No.
Nothing, okay, then, we're done. Thank you, everyone, we're adjourned.
Thank you. Good to have you here, madam.
Well, thank you.